Capitol Hoops. Today we are at Douglas High School with head coach Tyrone Massenburg. Coach Ty, we appreciate the time. We look forward to getting to know you a little better, learn a little bit more about your basketball background, your insight, your coaching philosophy. I know you've been around the game for a long time, and I'm sure you've got a lot to tell us about.
Well, I appreciate Capitol Hoops for considering me, and like I said, Tyrone Massenburg is this is my 30th year coaching high school basketball. I was a JV coach at Central High School under Coach Walter Fulton. Gave me the opportunity to coach at my alma mater. From there, I was awarded the job of coaching at Suitland High School, where I had a great time there. Coached some very good players, had some very good people supported me. And from Suitland High School, I'm currently now at Frederick Douglass High School, and couldn't be any better.
Talk to me a little bit about the makeup of your Douglas team here. You guys are coming off a very successful season. You had two, I guess, marquee players in Donald Carey and Zion Cousins. But talk to me about the makeup of the returning guys and kind of your reflection on last year's season.
Well, our motto is family, and all of those guys that Donald Carey, we had 10 seniors last year, and we treated each one the same. They walked in the door. None of the players that walked in the door the first day of ninth grade, and they all were here since the ninth grade, had Division I basketball potential. Coaching in public school, as most of us public school coaches know, we have to identify not really what our players are good at, but identify where they actually need to improve the most. So we have to do a lot of work. We have to identify which hand is their weakest, and they have to buy into wanting to just be a part of a successful program. And it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of sweat. We take a lot of pride in preparing. The passion for wanting to do well. These guys have definitely bought into that. And last year's team was I'm very proud of that team, especially being, like I said, that they all walked in the door together as ninth graders, not knowing each other, and they developed a close bond. They're all going to college, and that's something that for the past 5 years we have a string of all our seniors in college. Maybe not all of them are in basketball situations, but they all had aspirations of being better players and better leaders. That's what we're proud of. That's what I'm most proud of from this team. It would have been nice to win a state championship, and that trophy would have just been, a trophy. But I think it means a lot more to me to watch these young men grow, and I know they're going to go to school and do well and make our program proud. So I'm thinking when we all said and done, and I look at the success of what those guys accomplished, I think that'll mean a lot more than having to dust a trophy off.
Through your tenure as head coach at Suitland and here, what's the furthest your team has ever advanced?
My first year here at Douglas High School, and we went to the state championship game. We entered the playoffs with a losing record my first year.
You entered the playoffs with a losing record and made it to the state championship? How does that happen?
We always had the potential. It was my first year here, and we had to kind of get our chemistry. We were late. I knew we would be better near the end of the season. We had a couple of guys who weren't playing the first. We had one guy in particular, Kayvon Glover, who was a freshman, who didn't have the grades the first quarter. We got him back, and we played our first game. When going into, actually, we lost our last regular season game that year. we lost to Sarasville, and that was their first win of the season. And they beat us at the buzzer on a corner shot. So we went into the playoffs on kind of a down note, but they bought into us a new season. We had an unbelievable week of practice, and it gave us a lot of confidence. Our first game was at Fairmont Heights, and we honestly felt if we could just get a string and do something good, sky's the limit. So we end up winning that game, and you could just tell the kids felt very good about themselves the next day in practice. Like, we can win the next game. So we played North Point, and I think they were like the best team in that conference down there.
What year was this?
This was 2008, 2009.
Okay.
So I think that was their first year opening up, or first or second year. So they hadn't moved up to a 4A team yet. But we upset them. We had a great player, Tyrone Wiley, matter of fact, but he was a sophomore.
Okay.
Actually, we started 2 sophomores and a freshman that year. And then we went to Gwynn Park, and they were the favorites to win. They won our league. I think they had played in the county championship game. And, you know, we probably were, most people thought that was going to be the end of the line. And you could just tell our kids were you know, losing wasn't accepted that night. And we probably played the best game of our season that year. And we ended up upsetting Gwynn Park. And we had to go to play River Hill for the regional final. And it was still a shock probably to the community. For me, you know, I'm not saying I'm used to winning championships, but losing and doing well in playoff situations, you know, I like those situations. So I was definitely not surprised that we made it that far. The River Hill game, River Hill, they slowed the game down, so it was like a very low score.
30s or 40s?
30s. I think the halftime score was 12-10. You know, we kept trying to press them to speed the game up, and we just couldn't get that couldn't put together any steals to kind of change the pace of the game. They had a 5-point lead on us with maybe 2 minutes left in the game, and we finally got them to turn the basketball. And we took a 2-point lead with maybe a minute to go in the game, and I think that was something that they weren't used to, because that meant that they couldn't hold the basketball anymore. Right. And we ended up winning that game and making it to the Comcast. So that was something that the school was new to.
Yeah.
The team that I took over, I think, won maybe 5 games the year before. So it was definitely new. We played Wacomico, who their coach goes to Comcast every year.
Yeah.
And we ended up beating them. Then we played City College for the championship, and they're starting 5.
That was like Nick Foss was on that team?
Nick Foss, Latham, C.J. Fair. The guy that plays for the Dallas Cowboys. He was one of their power forwards. Okay. He played football. He played at Oklahoma. So they were the best team in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And they beat us by 8 in the championship. That's the farthest as far as head coach.
How many regional championship games have you played in?
Suitland, I think we had a string of winning, making it to, we made 3 straight at Suitland.
Made it 2-3 straight chips or 1-3 straight chips?
3 straight regional championship games.
So you won 3 in a row?
We did not. We lost all 3 of them.
Oh, you lost all 3
But we played in 3 straight. One
Okay.
year we lost to Largo, one year we lost to Roosevelt, and one year we lost to Oxon Hill.
Okay.
But the Suitland experience was a great experience. I mean, it was very competitive. The 4A league back then was I mean, the coaching was just so good. And the games were so exciting. The kids used to get up for the games, the whole schools, the rivalries we developed. So it definitely prepared me, but nothing prepared me more than I think going to the camps, because that taught me how to gauge players and how to tell players weaknesses.
Tell me a little bit more about what you mean going to the camps. I know this was a pretty important part of your coaching
that
makeup.
was very important. That was very.
Yeah.
I think it's the most important development for me because.
Tell us exactly what you're talking about.
Well, my first camp experience, I went with Tav Hickman to a camp that was called BC All Stars, and when we got to the camp, you watch kids play for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then you have to pick your team for the camp. And it's all, back then, all the head coaches went to camp. It's not like now where probably no basketball head coaches do camp anymore. Now, back then, all head coaches went to the same camp. So you kind of had to learn how to pick your team, pick what type of players you thought could win. And I became pretty good at that. So you had to pick your team according to your own evaluation. Nobody could help you. It was like a NBA draft. I'm gonna move forward to where I was at my first year at 5-star camp, and I was pretty nervous. I was very nervous.
And it was the same format at all these camps where you had to evaluate based on a quick evaluation and then pick your guys. So that was like every camp. That was kind of the
every camp,
beginning.
except for the Maryland camp where they just
randomly
1, 2,
give
3.
you.
But or every other camp, you had to pick your players.
Okay.
And when my first time was at 5-star camp, because I have been to the Eastern Invitational camps with all PG County coaches used to go, but I wasn't in the highest division because I was one of the younger coaches. So I wasn't in the highest division. So I went to 5-star camp and I was in the one level up before having the top players.
Okay.
And one of the coaches didn't show up. So Howard Garfinkel gave me a chance, told me to move up. So I go to the higher division, and it's all these top coaches from all over, from Pittsburgh, New York, everywhere, all top head coaches. And me, I was just still an assistant coach, probably the only assistant coach in the league. And we pick players. And when you have the draft, it's at late at night, about 12 o'clock at night. And Tom Kachowski, who was a scout, he decided that he would help me out on picking the team because he thought I was kind of over my head with all these upper coaches.
Okay.
So he had a sheet because he ranks players with all the top players. But I had my own sheet of who I liked through the evaluation. So every time it was time to pick a player, it was my turn to pick a center. And I would look at my notes and point to who I was going to pick. And then he'll look at his sheet and say, I got him ranked number 7. You could be a better. So I went with my players. And I didn't use any of his players on his board. So essentially he was like, man, you're not going to win a game. All of these top players, this is what I do. So he can tell you to this day, every time he sees me, he remembers me. We won the championship.
You won the championship?
We won the championship.
Wow.
Of 5-star. And that and then other coaches would tell me, that's a sign that you know how to evaluate.
Yeah.
And then you know how to put teams together. You know how to lead kids that you don't even know, but you knew how to pick the right players, the right pieces to win the camp, instead of just picking the top players on his board, which might have gave me the most talented team, but I did not do that. And that's kind of how I take those over to me now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, how does that translate into what you do now as a public school basketball coach?
It translates. It means everything. I think without those experiences, I don't think I would have been able to kind of lead the way I do now, as far as because I mean, public school is different from private school.
Yeah.
We get great kids. We definitely get great kids, but a public school coach has to identify the weaknesses of his team to make sure that those things are worked on. In public school, you may have to teach a kid how to use his left hand, or just box out, or just basketball terminology. It really requires a lot of work to put that team together.
How do you think over the years that you've been in basketball, kind of the relationship between public school and private school has changed? I know 10, 15 years ago, private school existed, but there were fewer private schools and not as many players were poached from the public system to the private system. It seems like these days that balance has changed a lot.
It has. I think it's changed. I think the balance, as far as the amount of private schools, has changed. I don't think the passion that the coaches have changed in public school, because, like I said, public school coaches, you get very personal with your kids, and I think that's what drives most of the coaches. Yes, there is a lot of private schools, and they have great coaches. I mean, and I think Prince George's County coaches are well respected. I know a lot of WCAC coaches that I'm very good friends with, and they have the utmost respect for what we do in the county, and then it's both ways. I think that the public school coach, if you worry about the private schools while you're coaching public schools and feel as though that it's a disadvantage, then...
But how do you not worry? I mean, you may have 3 kids in your district who you think are going to be a part of your starting 5 for the next 4 years, and all of a sudden, 2 of them are gone, and you got to reassess everything. I mean, how does that not keep you up at night that some of your top dogs are going to be gone?
That's a great question. Personally, I just have to understand that that's things happen for a reason. I mean, it's easy to get upset, but I haven't gotten upset about it because it's not about me. I mean, if a kid is doing well and it works for them, I mean, we've had like Markel Folks should have gone to Douglas. Victor Oladipo should have gone to Douglas. Melo Trimble should have gone to Douglas. There's a lot of players that live in the Douglas zone.
Yeah.
But those, I mean, the fact that those kids are doing well, you can't make it about you and say, well, I'm mad that kid didn't go to my school. Because the situation is there. It can happen. I don't know what other area besides the DMV in the world that has a WCAC conference.
And a Capitol Beltway conference.
And a Capitol Beltway to worry about as far as publics.
Yeah.
I mean, New York, Baltimore, Virginia, I mean, those are public schools. Everywhere across the nation is public schools. So this is the only area where, the private school has that option. And I don't know what's said, at the dinner table about when it's time to decide to go to a school. I know when I was growing up, my mother and father supported me to the fullest. But when it was time to go to high school, they couldn't tell you what all the other gyms look like. Now there's so much invested into your kid that, I mean, they know the coach, they know the school, they know more than, what other parents were doing back then. And it worked. It worked. It still worked for us. The process is still the same.
Gotcha.
Get to know the coach. There's some great coaches in public school. And there's some great schools, depending on, you can't believe everything you read and see on the TV. There's some great public schools. And we had 2 kids, like I said, walk in the door with a dream of going to D1 that didn't go to private school and their dream got fulfilled. So it can happen, but I can't, like you said, the question was, how do you deal with it? You just got reality.
Yeah.
You just stay mad if you couldn't deal with it.
I want to ask you about recruiting and transfers. It's a hot topic, especially in PG County. It's illegal for you to recruit players that are not in your district.
Right.
But if they're players that are in your district and private schools are recruiting them, you could also try to get them to stay home, but you can't go outside of your district. There's so many transfers in PG County. I'm just curious to get your take on the whole thing. There's some schools in PG County that seem to get a lot of transfers, and it seems like there may be different rules for some schools based on open enrollment or based on some other factors. I'm just curious to get your take on this whole situation.
Well, I think the transferring between the schools, there's always more to what's on the surface. I've had maybe, I can probably count on my hand the kids that have actually decided that this program wasn't for them, where the family said we're leaving. So I think that when you decide, when a transfer happens, you have to clearly transfer to, if you think it's better. I don't get mad about it. I think it should be done respectfully. And I think the coaches, and I talk to coaches a lot about transfers, especially if I know that you lost one or if you picked up a transfer. I do talk to those coaches to make sure to understand both sides of it. Because if you're the one that's getting a transfer, just remember that kid is leaving somewhere, and it may be you the next time. So you have to understand that if you lose a kid to another school, then I would sit back, like I said, why did the kid leave? What's the best for you that the kid left? And then you got to continue to coach your program. And then if you pick up a transfer, then your attitude can't change because now you're the beneficiary. Because last year you hated the transfer rule, and then this year you're good with it. I mean, it goes in cycles. Kids do leave. We're in a time now where all you want to do is make your kid happy, and instead of telling your kid to fight. I don't know any bad coaches that don't play kids that are great kids, great attitude, great teammates. I don't know too many coaches that don't play those kids. So transferring, you just have to, and it doesn't always work out. Transfers happen, but what is the result of the transfer? So I tell people don't worry about it, the transfer. It does happen. This happens in our county, but it happens everywhere. It can happen, but what really was the result? Did it make the kid better? Could he have done the same thing at your school? And at the end of the day, he probably could have. And then as a coach, you still got to stick to what your morals are and what you build your program on. And if you're doing that, I tell them don't worry about the transfers because that's something that we're not going to be able to control that.
Yeah. The shot clock, it's a hot topic. A lot of people think some coaches may get exposed because they don't know how to coach with the shot clock. They don't know in what situations to foul, how to use a 2-for-1 at the end of a quarter, end of a game. What are your thoughts on how the shot clock is going to affect coaching in the state of Maryland?
We're going to see. We're going to see. You definitely going to have to do some homework, some research on how to coach with a shot clock. It's just not, okay, it's a shot clock, it's not going to make a difference. It is going to make a difference in possessions. I think I've done a little bit of research on it, and I've noticed that we probably have double the amount of possessions that
Really?
we'll have.
Double?
Well, against certain teams, because the shot clock will either cause two things, and without giving away. But I think that most teams will see maybe 10 or 12 seconds left on the shot clock and think that that's 2 seconds on the shot. I think it's going to force more possessions, maybe the panic thing and the pressure. And we've been so used to the just keep it moving back and forth style of play. And now, we have to play, we have to think, and we have to do more of all five have to understand what's going on, what you want, what shot you want at the end of a shot clock, who you want to take the shot. And then not just for 4 quarters now, where you just have a last shot of the game situation. Yeah. Now you have maybe every possession. If it's not a fast break, then you got a possession where you gotta make sure you get the right shot. So I think it'll have possessions.
Do you think style of play will change? I've heard some coaches say they think the high school game will become kind of like the NBA, where there's a lot more pick and roll, and there'll be less ball movement. Do you think that? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, once again, if it's 10 seconds left in the shot clock, I think most coaches may, I'm not saying they will, but if it gets to that game where if it's 10 or 15 seconds on the shot clock, then you just put the basketball in your best one-on-one player.
Right.
And you want him to just milk the clock and get the last shot.
Coach Massenburg, talk to me a little bit about the current state of AAU basketball. AAU has developed into just a monster in the basketball world. I know you have a little experience coaching on the AAU side. Just curious to kind of get your thoughts on how you think high school basketball and AAU basketball coexist, and if they're good for each other. Kind of your thoughts on the whole thing.
I'm kind of torn between good and bad with summer basketball. I was told that AAU, by AAU people, that they get a bad name because most of the tournaments aren't AAU tournaments.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, they're not called AAU.
Okay.
And the AAU organization aren't the ones running. So when you bash AAU, which is Amateur Athletic Union, they have nothing to do with it. Like, it's the Under Armour circuit, it's the Nike circuit, it's Adidas circuit. Those aren't AAU. But we just so accustomed to saying AAU.
Right.
But that's just something that being around the actual AAU organization, they feel as though they get a bad name for something that they have nothing to do with. But like I said, I started playing. My first teams were AAU teams. Before I coached in high school, I coached the AAU team,
Okay.
and it was solely because, number one, I wanted to coach. It was the summertime, and then there were kids who wanted to get better for their high school and maybe travel in the process, but they wanted to get better, meet new friends, play with different people.
I think it's interesting that you just said kids wanted to get better in the summer for their high school.
Right.
Do you think that's currently how it is? Do you think
No.
kids want to play so they can get better for their high school, or do you think they want to get better for themselves or for some other reason?
No, that's where I said. That's why I think that it's totally flipped now, because you're playing AAU now for personal gain. I Man, it's okay to play It was okay to play AAU when I played it and when I coached it earlier because, like I said, my mom and dad, you play AAU, that's like going to summer camp. You good? Where y'all going? Be safe. You know, come back home. Now, you play AAU because that's the next level. It's a level. Then you want to play at a certain AAU level, and I'm still saying AAU, but summer basketball level, where you feel like that's going to propel you and maybe get you a scholarship to a very, very high level school.
But there's some advantages and some truth in that too. I mean,
Yes,
if you were able to parlay a great AAU season into a high level D1 scholarship, I mean good for you, right?
That's exact that, and the difference between then and now is, like you just said, that is exactly how to get a big time scholarship.
Yeah.
Especially in the DMV area. Especially in the DMV area. And that's what takes me to the state that we are in right now. To get a major Division I scholarship, a major Division I scholarship in the DMV area is mostly coming from summer basketball. So I think too much pressure is put on summer basketball, and the fun is being taken out of it. I think I had a conversation with some guys about how the kids now, one of my good friends coaches at the Kenner League, and he has, that's college kids.
Right.
And he said that the kids come to the game and they just grab the jersey and just go warm up. They don't speak. They don't, and it's so much business. It's even to the kid. It's the fun. If you have a kid that plays for one organization, even in high school, and then they have another kid that plays for another organization, they may be more loyal to that than when they get back together in high school. So, I mean, the friendship is good, but I just think it's taken away from actually learning everybody.
How do we correct that? Is it correctable?
I think it's correctable. I think we all have to, all organizations, I don't know if that will happen, but I mean, the Nike, everybody that's in charge of the organizations, just be more together.
Yeah.
I would love to see the day when we have our own tournament here in the DMV with all the top AAU programs, and even let some of the other programs play. And it would be a great event. But the problem with that would be none of the top programs want to play each other, business-wise.
Right.
Who would have the event? Who would benefit from the event financially, and would you get the players? Can they all sit in the same gym at the same time? And I think that's the negative part about the DMV summer basketball. I just wish the guys were a little closer. Treat each other with much more respect. Understand that it's the kids' game, and we need to leave it at the kids' game. But and there's some good guys. I mean, I'm friends with every organization. It is, every one of them, and they all are good guys. They're all are good guys. I think they all have a passion for coaching, have a passion for making the kids better. I just wish that all of them can get together and keep it right here instead of traveling.
Yeah. You're a true DMV basketball advocate, ambassador through and through. Talk to me about what DMV basketball means to you.
it's a passion, man. It's these guys play basketball. They don't play basketball just to, just for fun. Just for fun. I mean, the relationships we build, pretty much all of the friends that I know, well, majority of the friends that I deal with now are friends through basketball.
Yeah.
DMV basketball, it goes so far back that, we really have to probably do a better job of making the kids aware. I have so many friends that played back in the day that when they walk in the gym, my kids, they may walk over, where I am around my kids, and they'll just, they wouldn't know who he is. And I always let them know this guy was real good. If a Kurt Smith come to the game, or Stacey Robinson, or if a coach is coaching another team, like if we're playing Wise, I tell them Rob Gardner was a good player. Because these kids really don't know. I think we need to do a better job of making schooling them.
Yeah.
But DMV basketball, I think it's definitely the best area. I've been everywhere. Like I said, going to the camps, I watched kids that come from the DMV play, competed 5-star, competed all the camps, and they always the toughest kids because of the level that they play on a daily basis. Yeah. The coaching is the passion that all the coaches have for greatness. It's not compared anywhere else. We don't have one or two good teams that dominate the city. Any team can win any year. As far as, like PG County, I think that in my time, my 30 years, I've probably seen every high school be at that time where they were the best team.
Yeah.
Every single high school in PG County.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Every single one of them, I can say it was a year when they were the best team. Like now, some of the teams that don't win as much now, I can remember when they were the best teams.
Give me some examples.
Like at High Point.
Yeah.
They used to be the best team.
Oxon Hill.
Was
Forestville.
the best team. Forestville won 2 straight championships. Radsfield won a championship when I was coaching at Central. Of course, Fairmont Heights won championships.
Yeah.
Bowie at one point had the best. Every team, Potomac, Largo's won. It isn't a team in, like I said, that hasn't been that team.
Right.
That has Parkdale was great. I was coaching when Parkdale was very good. Duval definitely was good. So everyone's had their time. So that's why I feel as though any team, any school in PG County can be good. I don't think that there's a program or a job that you can take that you can say, why'd you go there? Because when I came to Douglas, and even back when I went to Suitland from Central was the dominant team in the 2A. I think we won the 2A like 7. If it was a county championship back when I was at Central, we would have played like 7 straight years against the 4A. So leaving Central to go to Suitland, a lot of people were saying, man, why would you do that? They probably won maybe 2 or 3 games. They hadn't been very good. And, the challenge, losing wasn't one of the options that I was used to. So I had confidence in myself. So going from Central to Suitland, and Suitland became one of the, regular names in public school basketball. I mean, during that time in the 4A league, it was very tough. Very tough.
You do a lot for PG County in terms of like helping out with all-star games, picking teams, coaching teams. Do you have an official role for something like that, or what is it that you do for PG County basketball? Because I know you do a lot.
Well, they call me the president of the Coaches Association.
Okay.
We tried to put that association together, and I guess I'm the unwritten president.
Okay.
Maybe George Wake was the unwritten president, the oldest, coach. They got everything done, and he's still behind the scenes. I mean, we owe everything to him right now, because without him, we wouldn't even have the All-Star game. He contacts me, and every year I say, man, I coach, but I know if I don't, I make the phone calls, and credit to the coaches, but I call them right after the state championship. If I don't make the call, or they'll call me like, Coach, when we gonna have trials? Or I'm like, well, who made me in charge of the All-Star game? So I just, I did it one year, and then from there, all the coaches like, Coach, that's you.
Tell me about the tryouts for the All-Star games. I've heard about this before. It seems a little strange. I mean, everyone's familiar with PG County basketball. Why is it necessary to have tryouts for an All-Star game?
Well, going back to how PG basketball is. PG basketball is a show me county. Names mean nothing. And that's why I love coaching in the county, because names mean nothing.
So how do the tryouts work?
Well, we get all the players, we get all the seniors from
Every senior who wants to come?
that played on the team. Well, actually, this year we've done it different ways. We've done the north and we've done the south, which was fine. North-south worked, but I think just for bragging rights, we went back to 1A, 2A, 3A versus 4A, and the kids liked it more because and the coaches, it was easier to kind of know the players.
Right.
So
you're more familiar with guys you've been playing against all year.
So it made it better, cut down on the questions about who couldn't make the team. So we get all the seniors that finish the season, and it's really not a lot. When we have trials, it may be about 30 kids, maybe that, and 4A will have that too. And then we also have 2 games.
Right.
So
it's like a main game and a prelim.
the main game, if you got a player that had a great year, then you kind of predetermine maybe 7, 8 of the spots, and then you play, because like I said, a lot of kids.
You mean you play in this tryout for those last 4 or 5 spots? That's what you're talking about?
And you have all the coaches here, and the coaches, they kind of bid in for their players. But it works. It works. We played Potomac one time this year, and they had some great players.
Yeah.
One of their kids didn't have a good game against us, so I couldn't vouch for him. But every other coach said, "Man, this kid killed us." So I said, "Okay, put him on the team." So that it works. It works out. It's a good thing for the coaches to come together.
Yeah.
Again, every coach doesn't. We wish that everyone did. There's some schools where the coach doesn't show up, and it may hurt their player, because you got to support your kid, and some coaches are always here for things like that, and then you got some coaches that never show up, and then they'll call you after the team is selected and say, "Why my kid isn't playing?" But send your assistant coach,
Right.
somebody.
Right.
So that's how it works. It's been a good event. We can make it better, but PG County, we always have a great crowd, and the kids always play hard. So I don't mind doing it. Most of the coaches now are younger coaches that I watch play, and I definitely like that. I got a former player now that's going to be coaching at Duval. that's from Central. And like I said, I've coached a lot of the players that's in the county right now, and I tell them I'm proud of them. They look at me, they call me all the time. It's surprising that I've gotten to the point where I'm the older coach.
Right.
But I used to be the younger coach calling Tav Hickman, Coach Fulton, Coach Wade, Coach Welch, Walter Clark. I was the young coach. And now,
Circle of life, man.
yeah,
Circle of
the roles
life.
have definitely changed. The roles have definitely changed.
Give me the all-Ty Massenburg team from your years as a head coach at Siouxland and here. If you had to field one team, where would you go?
I would go Tyrone Wiley, Douglas player. I would go Siouxland player Bobby Mays. I had to put Navarro Bowman. I mean, he could guard anybody.
Yeah.
Christian Jackson. Siouxland, I'm gonna just go Siouxland first. It's Christian Jackson. Another kid that on my first team at Siouxland, I mean that's the team I hold special. Roland Hurst. He was the leader of that team. So if you want 5 players, let me see, I would go Christian Jackson, Bobby Mays, Navarro Bowman, Cliff Dixon, Mike Lewis for Siouxland, Douglas, I said Tyrone Wiley, Donald Curry, Enzyme, like Tyrone's brother, Irk, and like Kayvon Glover. I know I'm leaving out a lot, but
That's a nice squad, though.
those kids were good basketball players, but like I said, it's so many kids that I'm proud of because public school, like I told you earlier, you get so personal.
Yeah.
It's so personal with the kids, with your players, that you take them, you lead them on different paths because they're not going to get a major D1 scholarship. So you lead them to being great men, being successful, wanting to go to college. So I think the fact that you can lead them to doing those things and watching them come back is, that's the draft night for me.
All right, Coach Massenburg. Question I've asked every coach in this series. Got to ask you, if there was a pickup basketball game today with all of the coaches in the DMV, you talked earlier about how you could eyeball talent and pick them out. Who would your first pick be today?
Yeah, I think of the young guys.
Yeah.
Who would I pick to play?
Yep.
I would go with my smart guys, my point guards. I would go with the point guard first. I would go with Rob first.
Rob Garner?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I gotta stick with the point guards.
I think everybody said Rob Garner. Who would your second pick be?
My second pick, I'm gonna go with Chuck Henry.
Okay.
I keep it in the. So Chuck played at Fordsville.
Yeah.
He knows what the battles are.
All right, Coach Massenburg. Well, we really appreciate you letting us in here, talking to us candidly about your thoughts on the game, the state of AAU basketball, everything with PG. Last thing I want to do is just give you the floor. If there's anything you think is important to talk about, the floor is yours.
Well, first and foremost, I appreciate you giving me this time to talk and let people know a little bit about myself. We always don't get the attention that most schools are afforded. So I definitely appreciate you showing, I guess you say, showing some love to Prince George's County and showing some love to myself and to my path of being a coach. I want to thank my staff. I mean, you can't do this alone. I learned that you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with, and I think I've surrounded myself with a great staff. I think that was important. All my staff are former players, so the family atmosphere is there within our program, and all the schools that gave me the opportunity to coach, Central, Siouxland, and Frederick Douglass. I appreciate them for allowing me to, fulfill my dream of coaching. Thanks to the families that believed in me and stuck with me. Like you said, it's easy to run. It's easy to run. And, if you decide to say, I'm going to let my kid play in Coach Massenburg's program and I'm good, so for those ones that believed in what we're doing, I appreciate you. It's going to keep going. Rest in peace to three people who were very influential in my coaching. Gerald Moore, he was a coach at Friendly High School, won back-to-back state championships. Nick Lynch, who was a football coach at Siouxland, who that was my right-hand man, and then my other buddy who great supporter of me throughout my whole playing career and coaching career, who was administrator here, Edgar Lynch. They all have passed. And I do it for them. I do it for them. People see me before the game, tap my heart and point to the sky. I used to do it once, and that was for Lynch. This past year, I tapped my heart twice, and that was for Lynch and my dad. And then this coming season, I'll be tapping it 3 times, which would be Lynch, my dad, and my man, Coach Cheney just went down. So that's who I am. I'm passionate, not gonna change. I'm getting older, but that's what I'm about. Like I said again, appreciate you for giving me this time.
All right, Coach Massenburg, we appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you next season.
Yes, sir.
All right.